Awesome. Well, before I get started though, I just felt like I wanted to kind of say something. I remember growing up as a kid, and I don't know why I feel the need to say this, maybe it's for somebody. But I grew up as a kid, I used to always tell people I'd be in church, and all these people say, can't you feel God? Can't you feel God? God's in his place. And they sit there and think, no, I don't feel God at all, man. I don't know what you're on, I don't know what you're smoking, but I don't feel God at all, man. And then God kind of gave me a revelation that God doesn't come from the outside in. See, I was waiting for God to come down like a rain shower or just slug me upside the head or something. Seriously, as a kid, I thought, well, God's going to come and appear like in the Bible doing these Bible whoa things, you know. And he never came and did a whoa. But he's inside. Because the Bible says that his glory is weightiness. And God gave me a revelation that it wasn't from out coming in. It's just God is going to rise. The glory rises in you. And as we prepare the atmosphere in our lives, the weightiness of God comes in us and it flows out of us. And that's what people say, they feel the glory of God because he's just coming from in you and it's got to come out somewhere. It's got to come out in praise and glory. It's a weightiness that's in you. And I encourage you just in your time before you come to church, you know, it can't rain if the atmosphere isn't flooded with the dew point and humidity.
Amen.
It'll evaporate. So the glory of God, for those of you that are here, I don't know who this is for, don't try to keep finding God. Let him find you. Let him just rise up within you because he's weightiness and he'll do that anyway. That's kind of a freebie. I won't charge you for that one. Well, I wanted to give you kind of a slideshow. I know that your church supports us as U.S. missionaries, and we're so grateful for all of your support and all of you guys getting behind our mission of what we're doing here. And as like she said, we're not just in here in Arizona. We're in those other states, and we are in talks right now with New York. And so we're looking at reproducing the model that God has allowed us to do here. How many know that we need to change our foster care system?
Amen.
How many know 18,000 kids in foster care is not acceptable?
Yes.
How many know kids walking around without their own clean underwear and shoes is not acceptable?
Amen.
And we're going to change it. Kids sleeping on the floor at a DCS office is not acceptable. And we're going to change that situation. So go ahead and go to the next slide. My wife couldn't be here, by the way. I apologize. She is at home. We just did our back to school event yesterday. This was our second of 3 events that we did to try to reach all the kids. I think we were over 800 kids this year that we've reached for back to school. We do a backpack. We do a craft, a team building game. We have a motivational speaker. We feed them lunch. It's just an amazing day. We see the kids coming through. But I wanted to talk to you about the power of your seed and what you are doing and your donations and your church getting behind us is not just monies that you're giving to us in your prayers, but it's a seed that you're planting in kids' lives. Seeds that are growing and are beginning to make a difference. This is Karina right here. I love Karina. She aged out a couple of years ago, and this young lady was on her way to disaster. Her parents had abandoned her, gave up on her. She was alone. She didn't have any place to go. And a Christian lady from the church started visiting her foster group home and was just there playing games and hanging out with her and just loving on her, teaching her tradition and letting her know that God's got a purpose for her life. God came into her heart and began to change her and began to give her a hope. These kids' lives, if you look into their eyes, you see nothing but emptiness. There's no hope, because it's been ripped from their lives. They're in survival mode. And this volunteer just began to speak hope into this lady's life. Began to speak hope into her heart again. And it says if you read this, she's now she is a pharmacist now. She's a pharmacy technician, and she's on her way. And she's so proud to have been going forward because she said, I was going to give up, but I didn't give up. I wanted to so badly, but my mentor from the church would not let me give up. Aren't you awesome when we just say, God is more powerful than what's going on in your life, and we're not going to give up on you? And we didn't, and she's a life change. Go to the next slide, if you will. We'll see one of the other ladies that we've been able to impact. This young lady was in our group home system again, and this was her mentor, and she began to work with her about the age of 15 and just stayed with her. Well, she was getting ready to age out of the foster care system, and she was scared. She says, I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be out on my own. I'm going to try to find a bridge to live under. I'm not going to go to a shelter downtown because they scare me, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And here she is, 18. How is it to be 18? Be given a black trash bag, and out the door you go. Unbelievable. That's what goes on in the state of Arizona, well, across our nation. And she's scared. When kids turn 17 in the foster care system, fear comes in their hearts. because they realize I've got to walk out that door and fend for myself. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't ready at 18 to be able to fend for myself. Thank God for parents. She said I would have been on the streets. And I like that when she says, I'm not exaggerating. And we came into her life. Her family was all in another state. I think it was Pennsylvania. The next slide may show it if you want to go to the next slide. And she came to us, she said, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm going to be homeless. Can you guys help me? I want to go back to Philadelphia because the family I do have is in, I think, was it say Philadelphia? I don't know if it says it or not, but I think they were in Philadelphia, so I had no way to get there. So we put out an email to our churches and our sponsors and our volunteers and said, can we help this young lady and love on this young lady? Within 2 hours of my email, we had a plane ticket, we had vouchers for taxi cabs, vouchers for 3 meals, a warm coat because she was going in wintertime, and her on her way to the airport with all of her stuff boxed up and ready to go. And she said, I've never seen God like this before, coming in because he cares about me. Church, that's the seed that you sown. You may not have been there, but this is your seed and this is your harvest because you were there to make sure a kid is walking in the glory of God. Isn't that awesome? Go to the next slide. I want to see another one of our young ladies. This lady is an awesome, this is probably one of my favorite stories because it's so new. And I'm going to, I wasn't going to cry today. This young lady had so much abandonment in her life and so much pain in her life that, as a lot of foster kids do, she began to hurt herself because they want to feel something. They become numb to emotion. They become numb to the things. And so this young lady was trying and struggling to get along. And one of the ways she did that, again, she would cut it. And this family started going into her life, and they began to mentor her, began to love on her, and began to spend time with this young lady. And while they were there, the young lady approached them and said, I've been watching you, and you've done so much in my life. Can you tell me about God that's in your life? Tell me about your God. Tell me about who your God is. She ended up getting saved, long story short. In the group home, they led her to Christ. Then they started talking about baptism and what baptism is and what baptism means and how you can be baptized. She came to them, she says, I really want to be baptized because I want to make a public declaration of my faith.
Praise God.
It's kind of amazing. So they said, sure, go to the next slide if you will. There it is. That's your seed, folks. That's your harvest. Coming to Christ. That a young lady said, I'm not only just going to get saved and say a cute little prayer. I want to go to your church and in front of everybody that I know, make a declaration that I'm dying to my old self and I'm raising up to newness of life. God is awesome. Story doesn't end there because this family said, we love you so much. The family started spending time with her, inviting her to her home and said, what? We could never be foster parents, but maybe we should. And they started pursuing that about being a foster parent and about fostering this young lady. And so they started coming to her home. A couple of months after she got saved, the young lady went to the bathroom, and while she was in the bathroom, she had had a bad day that day, just a really traumatic day. And the enemy came out and started pounding her head. You ever had one of those days where the enemy just come at you and kicks you when you're down? And she was just under a lot of pressure. And she looked up and she saw a razor blade. And she thought, you know what, I'm just going to cut myself again. To just deal with the pain. And so she took that blade, and right as she started to cut, Holy Spirit came into that bathroom and said, that's not who I created you to be. You are more than that. And she started crying. She took that blade, she opened up the bathroom, and we were running to this mentor, and she hugged her on the neck, and she says, here, I want to give this to you. I was going to cut myself in the bathroom, but God said, that's not who you are now. That's who you used to be. You're somebody completely different, and I want you to take this because that's not who I'm going to be from this point forward.
Praise God.
Isn't that awesome? Folks, this is your harvest. This is a life that represents the hundreds and thousands of lives that we are touching every day because of you. That you allow us to change. You allow us to input. You allow us to be there when these kids are at the hardest and need us the most. We're there. I think we have one more slide with her on it. This is her now in the foster family. It's awesome. They've adopted her. I don't think they've adopted her as foster. I'm not sure what the process is, but she's living with him, and they knew she loved horses. They began to train her on horses, and so after training her on horses, they went to a horse show, and she won all the different categories. She won Best of Show, first, second, third, and fourth in different categories that she entered. And she was just so proud. Look, I've got purpose in life.
Yes.
Isn't God amazing?
Yes.
Oh, it's so cool to see what God is doing. To go to the next slide, again, just to show you some of the things that God's doing. These are some of the programs that we have started and launched. One of them is we realized that kids were coming into care in cities around Arizona, that when the rural communities, Prescott, Flagstaff, and Yuma, and here in Buckeye, and different places, Maricopa, and Arizona City, and there, I think there were 23, I think we're up to 24 now. But realized these kids had no resources. When a kid gets removed from DCS, I don't know if you know most times that DCS is, because of the traumaticness and the emergency-ness of, they're going to go into that house and grab that child up and remove him and get him out of a dangerous situation, but they don't have time to grab clothes, they don't have time to grab a toothbrush or a shampoo or a change of clothes or underwear. It's just put you in the backseat of a car and whisk you away. Kid doesn't understand what's going on. His life has been traumatized by this move. Why are you taking me from my mommy and daddy in my home? They don't understand what's going on, but they're being transported. And they're going to either a group home or they spend the night on the floor of a DCS office next to a filing cabinet. And we begin to say, God, that's not good enough. How many know our God created us with purpose, and what that is not good enough? And I want to tell you this right now, church, is I've learned one thing, and this is a freebie again. I'll give you another freebie. It's not the government's fault. These aren't government's kids. These are our kids. They live in our communities and in our cities, and we have a vested interest. And until we stop pointing the finger and stand up and says, I'm going to do something to make a difference, stop pointing your finger and saying they're bad and they're evil, because they're not. They're good people, but they need help and they need resources. And church, we are responding to the call. You have responded to that call. We are here now, and we're changing the culture of foster care because of you, your prayers, your support. We are now making a difference. We're not doing this, and they see that. They see we're not just blaming them, but we're saying, how can we come alongside of you and help you in your mission? And they love the church, man. It's so incredible. So we begin to supply kids. At the bottom, you see hygiene welcome kits, underwear, bras, socks, backpacks for the kids going into school. We have outfitted the 23 centers where there's a DCS office. That's Department of Child Safety, the old CPS. So if you hear me saying that's what that means. But we have air beds now. We have a bed, a pillow, a blanket, a fitted sheet, a flat sheet. So when a kid comes into these offices and they just sleep on the floor of a DCS office, they're now on an air bed. Isn't God good? And there's snacks in there, and there's all kinds of goodies for the kids. And that's kind of me being cute. That's that right up the top. Just excuse the weirdo in the middle there. Those are our kinship kits. So when a kid is put in the back seat of a car, our churches now that are Transition Success Center, resource centers, have all these items stocked in their church. And DCS goes to get a kid. They call the church first. Says, can you help us? We have needs for a child. And they go to the church and get these resources, have them in the back seat of a car. When they go pick up a child, that child can reach into this kinship kit and pull out a stuffed animal and a blanket and a pillow and a bottle of water and a snack and activity books. So he feels like that he has something to love and to hold. God is good. Yes. God is. We're working on more of these, but that's where we're at so far. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Power of the seed. Right now, we partner with 205 group homes. Is that 205? I think that should be 105. I have a typo. I wish it was 205. We partner with 105 foster group homes here in the Valley and in Tucson. See, what does that mean? We partner with them. We have trained church volunteers going into these homes on a weekly basis, loving on these children that are in a group home. Do you know what a group home is? It's a modern-day orphanage. Staff that doesn't live there, they work 8 hours and go home. The kids are there. They're on lockdown. They can't just run to a friend's house or go to the park. They're on a schedule when to wake up, when to go to bed, when to eat, when to take a shower. They're just stuck there. So we send volunteers that just to love on these kids, play board games and card games and video games and tutor them and just help them if they've had a bad day. And it's incredible to watch the miracles that are coming from that. We partnered with 101 churches that have gotten involved since May of 2014. Because we're on a fiscal year statement with taxes and stuff. We've given out over 1,800 welcome kits. Oh, by the way, each of these have a book of life or a Bible on them. 1,800 welcome kits, 400 kinship kits, 300 suitcases, 75 new pillows, and 100 baby welcome kits. We're in 5 states and growing. The director of DCS called us about 2 months ago The new director of DCS is Greg McKay, and he called us up and he said, Gary, we've got all these infants because we've just opened up a new intake center. So in Phoenix, they can go to this big intake center instead of sleeping on the floor. But we don't have any resources for them. Can you guys come up with a welcome kit for these kids? And so we created the baby welcome kit so that the infants can have a welcome kit. And so now we're supplying. He called me last week and said, Gary, we've gone through the 75 you gave us. Can you give us about 100 more? Help us, Jesus. Yes. That's my always answer. I always tell them, my answer is always yes. And then I have the fun thing of going into my wife and saying, honey, guess what I just committed us to? What now? 100 more baby welcome kits? We don't have that stuff yet. Yeah, but God can get it, right? Yes, He can. All right, honey, good. So I told them we're bringing them down. I'm terrible. It's awful. God bless my wife. All right, go to the next slide. This is our cowboy camp. One of the events that we do every year is we do a career development fair. We give them job skills. I didn't bring a picture of that one. I apologize. That goes on in April. All summer long, we bring up one group home every year during the summertime, and they go to our cowboy camp. It's an overnight camp where they ride horses. They do a campfire. We go on a nature hike. We play team building games. It's pretty impressive. I think this year alone, we had just under 300 kids come through our cowboy camp. And had a great time. I like doing it because that lets me get on a horse and go horseback riding, right? Nothing better than being up in the north in the pines and horseback riding. Go to the next slide, if you will. This is our East Valley Back to School event. We had, at this one, just under 300 kids at our East Valley Back to School event. If you want to go to the next slide, I think I got slides from this year's Back to School event on Saturday. Oh, I don't. I'm sorry. I didn't bring one for our this year's. But this year we had, like I just said, was yesterday. So I'm pretty tired. It was a long week of getting all the supplies to the kids, and we just had kids come. And we had a motivational speaker give us testimony. So at each of these events, we've had 700 kids hear the message of Christ at these events. And kids coming up afterwards and talking to them, could you tell me more about what you did? So we just want to thank you. There's a lot more that we could say. If you guys are any way interested or God is speaking to your heart about getting involved as a volunteer, there's no commitment of time, there's no commitment of days, it's whatever your schedule allows. We would love to just talk with you about how you can get involved. I just found out yesterday at a back to school event that there's a new foster group home in Buckeye. I have no idea where it's at, but they were at our back to school event yesterday. So we'd love to get you guys connected up and start getting to know some of these kids and just make a difference on a level that fits into your life, your schedule, and the things that God has for you. I think, was that the last slide, brother? Yeah, it is the last slide. So thank you guys for all that you're doing. We just wanted to kind of celebrate. What is God doing? Isn't God good? Hallelujah. Your guys' harvest. All right. So I just wanted to share a little bit of a message before we go. So this is a time when then you guys can all go to sleep and wake up in 20 minutes when I wake up. Hallelujah. I got some smiles on that one. Usually my jokes bomb. Why is that? I thought I was a good joke teller. When we go to, I just gotta say this real quick. I have some really bad jokes. Okay, I mean, I'm the worst joke teller ever. And my jokes are bad because I got it from my mom before she passed away, right? So you know that the old generation jokes really aren't funny, but everybody laughs to humor them and to honor them. Okay, so I've taken all those jokes, and when we get on the horseback ride, sometimes it's like an hour and a half ride, I start telling every one of these bad jokes to these kids. By the time we get back to camp, they're like, please rescue us from Gary and his bad jokes. Hallelujah. They're not that bad. Yeah, I guess they are. All right. What I'm going to share with you guys today is just kind of a little bit of our testimony. And I hope just to kind of stir your faith about who God is. Because I want to tell you a little bit about my life and what God has done. When God called me to do this ministry, I was one of those guys that I challenged everything. God, if you're real, prove it to me. I grew up in church. I grew up in the Shunda Mahai, untie my bow tie, somebody stole a Mahanda. I grew up in the people falling down and this and that. But it's like, God, unless you're real to me, I don't know how much I'm going to do this. I challenged God, and I said, God, I want you to be real in my life. I don't want to play a church game. I don't want to do something because Mom says I'm supposed to do this. I want to know you. If you're real, God, I want to know you and who you are. But one thing about that is I was one of those guys that gets in a rut. You guys know what a rut is, right? When you're up deer hunting and it snows 7 inches of snow and you're driving to your favorite hunting spot and your tires are in this groove that 800 other hunters have already gone down, and your tires are just, you don't have to drive the steering wheel. You just sit there like that and the truck just goes right down the road because there's this huge rut in the road. And to get out of it takes everything you have. You take the steering wheel and pound the steering wheel and then finally jump out of that groove. You know, look at me all doing hunts. I'm sorry, okay, maybe another illustration. When it rains and you're on your way back to your home and you're running through a canal. Is that better? Do we have any hunters? I think I just lost everybody. Is anybody that hates me because I hunt? Oh, good, hallelujah. But that's who I was. I didn't like taking risks. I was, man, don't take the risk. I want the easy way out. So God came to me when God called us to do this ministry. I was just kind of just moseying along, doing good youth ministry. I never wanted to be a senior pastor. God bless them. Senior pastors, changing adult diapers, not my thing. Not my thing, man. Teenagers, you just slap them upside the head and go on, right? And yeah, no, I just didn't want to do that. And I was really good where I was at, and one day God came to me, and it was one of those things in my life where God began to stir my heart. You ever been in your life when you knew change was coming and God stirs your heart, but He doesn't tell you what it is? God's such a buzzkill, right? Just tell me what it is so I can prepare. No, because then we'll mess it up, right? And He began to stir my heart. I'm uncomfortable. I'm just really uncomfortable. God, what are you saying? Anytime, God, just go ahead. No, He wouldn't tell me. So I just pursued Him and pursued Him and pursued Him. I think He likes that. I think God likes being pursued. That's how I got married. I just kept pursuing my wife. I wore her down, and she had to give up and marry me. That's the truth. She couldn't stand it when she first met me. Persistence, man. But I just pressed in, and finally in October of 2014, I just had enough, and I was in the room, and I was just crying, saying, God, I can't do this anymore. You've got to speak to me. My life is just, man, my heart isn't with the youth anymore, and I'm just here. God, can you just speak to my heart? Talk to me. And God came to me and He said, a couple of words. He says, Gary, do you trust me? You ever God tell you, do you trust me? That's a scary thing, church. Because when God comes to you and says, do you trust me? That means He's asking you to commit everything and trust Him. It's kind of like the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie when he just takes a step on the leap of faith. Yes, way before your time. Here I go again. Losing everybody. It's a good movie. Made back before you were born. But we just have to have faith. And I'm just like, God, I don't know. I know what you're telling me to do. When you say trust me, He's telling me to quit my job, become a U.S. missionary. I've got a house, I've got 3 kids, I've got bills, I've got things I got to take care of. What do you mean quit my job? And so I looked up to God. This is the honest to God truth. I'm just crying like a big baby, just a big sob mess. I'm just bawling. And I looked up to heaven and I said, God, before I say I trust you, you got to deal with Gary. Because this scares me to death. And I don't know that if my own flesh and my own ability, I can do this. But if you'll take care of Gary and my fear, I say yes. And he didn't say anything. And I said, God, I know you will. And I say yes to you. I want to tell you, from that moment on, God has taught us principle upon principle to go into a system. Because I want to tell you, church, we live in a day and an age in which we need people that want to change the very status of culture. The very status quo has to be changed. We cannot keep going in the world in which we're living, or we're going to lose our ability to have a faith in Jesus Christ because it's under attack and under assault like we've never seen it before. And we need people that are going to say, I don't give a rip about what this government says about this or that you can't do this and you can't do that. I don't serve this administration. I serve God. And if God says we're going to do that and I can change the world, I'm going to change the world. And I went around and began to tell people, I'm going to change the culture of foster care in Arizona. They said, Gary, you're crazy. And I said, absolutely I am. But I dare a straight, normal, sound of mind person to say what I just said. I am crazy. But I'm going to change the culture of foster care because we have undervalued God. And said, God, you really can't do what your word says you can do. You can't do it. I don't think you can. And it's a point when we finally get a hold of and say, God, I trust you. And it's a great story in Matthew chapter 16. If you have your Bibles and turn, I'm not going to read it, but Matthew chapter 16, the disciples are all gathered together. And Jesus looks at them and asks them a very weird question. He says, who do the people say that I am? And I don't know about you, that's just an odd question. Jesus? Jesus? What do you want me to say, you know? But the disciples didn't say that. You guys don't have to respond. Oh, you're this great prophet Elijah, or you're this guy. The people say you're all these weird things. And then he looked at him and he said, who do you say that I am? See, church, I think before we can make a change in our world and change the things, our surroundings, and change our home situation and our family situation and our financial situation and our economic and everything else that's around us, our job situation, our marriages, our children, before we can change any of that, we've got to know who Jesus Christ really is to our lives and in us.
Amen.
Who is he? Who is he? You see, how you see or know God will determine your spiritual journey.
Yes.
Whether you struggle with this faith your whole life or not. Because God's not a lukewarm guy. It's all or nothing with God. How you see God or know God will determine your spiritual journey. I wrote down this quote. I didn't write down the name of the guy who quoted it, so I apologize. It says, God is not defined by the sum total of our experiences, but by the authority of His Word and His nature. See, so many times we define God in our lives by His answered prayers that we speak up, or what He's done in our home, or if He's answered a prayer about our finances, or our job, or our children are not doing this, and things aren't going the way we think they should in our lives and spiritually, and all of a sudden now we define God a different way based upon our own experiences. That's not how we define God, because God stands alone, regardless of your situation, your unanswered prayers, because God does answer our prayers. Sometimes it's just, I'm not answering you right now.
Yes. Amen.
I get that a lot. He likes to play with me a lot. God's quiet a lot for my life. You ever notice that? Is anybody else that way? But God is not defined by the sum total of our life experiences, because those life experiences can lead us astray and get us thinking in a weird way.
Amen.
And start destroying our faith and our hope, because we look at our circumstances and say, God, how come Susie over there is so blessed and their family is so great and mine's a mess and things never seem to get on track and I can't ever seem to make things work in my life, when you've got this family of hope that's all, oh, I want to be, oh, I don't want to be over here, right? So all of a sudden now, instead of us getting upset and saying, God, I'm going to run after you with even more fervor and more strength and just more determination, we start defining God. Well, God doesn't love me. God doesn't want to change my circumstance. God's trying to teach me a lesson. God ain't trying to teach you. He ain't trying to teach a lesson He's wanting you to teach us for you to get persistent. Say, God, I'm sick of accepting my circumstances that are less than you created us to be. Because God says in His Word, He created us to excel, right? And to overcome. He never created us to be defeated.
Amen. Amen.
I'm getting a lot of amens today. Is everybody okay?
Oh, yes.
There's a song I don't like. My wife loves it. I don't like it. But this is just my nature, and I think it's God's. It says, I raise the white flag. I surrender. So I think it's part of what's wrong with the Christian church today is we keep raising the white flag. Every time something's too hard, the government makes a decision that's wrong, or the Supreme Court decides to do something that's bizarre, and you guys are morons. I'm sorry, did I say that on TV? Yeah. And we do this. We're just going to raise a white flag to our kids dropping out of school, and kids getting shot, and drugs being legalized in our state. There's nothing we can do, God. Because Jesus is coming soon, and we're just going to go to heaven. We wave the white flag. You know, God never told us to raise the white flag when He says to surrender. You know what surrender to God is? Sword in hand, bowing before him, saying, Commander, what is the next move militaristically that I can go and take and conquer in your name? That's surrendering to God. Surrender means to God, let's go take some more land. I surrender to your will, your plan, because if I attack without your plan, I'm in big trouble, because my sword is not going to win this battle. Your decree, your plan, your spirit going before me is what's going to win. And church, when we learn to surrender, that's giving up. I'm sick of the church giving up and saying, that's okay, we accept this as status quo. No, it's not. We surrender with strength and with a sword in our hand that can divide between spirit and soul.
Amen.
That's the way I'm going to surrender to God. I yield everything I am, God, because I'm a fighter. And when my foster kids are being beaten, and I can tell you stories about kids being locked in foot lockers, and kids can hear there's strap marks on their wrists where they've been tied to a bed, and whip marks on their backs, and burn beads where they've been poured liquid stuff on their feet and set their feet on fire. Kids are eating flour to survive for weeks. And I see that kids at the camp, and they sit there with their shorts, and there's marks all over them. They cut their legs. That makes me want to just get angry and say, God, I'm going to change this circumstance. I'm going to change his life. I don't know how. I'm not the most talented. I don't know why you chose me, God, but I'm going to take my sword and everything I have, and I'm bowing my knee before you because you're the commander. And if you say go, I'm going to go, and we're going to win. And I'm going to change these kids' lives. And we're going to change the culture in our lives and in our surroundings. See, another thing God taught me was in Luke chapter 5. I'm going to see if I can read that for you. Luke chapter 5, 11:5. I love these things because I've gotten old enough now I have to wear reading glasses. So I can't read my Bible. And I'm too vain to... Sorry. I don't want to wear reading glasses. I'm too young. All right. I'm just being transparent. Is that okay? It says, then Jesus said to them, suppose, he's talking about prayer, praying the Lord's Prayer. Okay, this is all based upon prayer. Because the disciples said, hey, teach us to pray. How should we pray? Because when you pray, things happen. When you pray, just nothing. So can you show us how to pray? That'd be really cool. So he goes to the Lord's Prayer. And after he finishes the Lord's Prayer, he says, I'm going to teach you something else about prayer. So suppose one of you have a friend, and you go to him at midnight. My friend could be at midnight, buddy. Earplugs. Sorry, buddy. Go home. Says to him, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has come to me from a journey, and I have nothing to give him to eat. And from inside he answers and says, don't bother me. He is nicer than I'd be. What the heck do you want? Can I say heck in church? What in the world do you want? Get out of my face, chump. I'll talk to you in the morning. Don't bother me. The door's already shut, and my children and I are in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything. I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he is his friend. What's it saying here? He says, I don't care how close you are. I don't care if you say you're my friend. It's not because I'm a friend that I'm going to get up and give this to you. Yet because of his persistence, he will get up and give him as much as he needs. I want to tell you, church, we've got to start bombarding with heaven with a persistence that says, I'm just going to keep pounding on the door. And what's great about this, it doesn't matter. Some of you say, well, I'm not living the way I should. There's sin in my life, or I'm not close to God, or something's not right, and I'm not living God fully. God says it doesn't matter. It's not based on relationship. My prayers and my intervening in your life is based upon my will and my authority. And if you're persistent enough to tap into that, then you can receive something regardless if you think you're fully right with God or not. God wants you to get right with Him, but He says, you know what? You can untap and unlock something if you just keep sitting there and say, God, no, Gary. Hey, God.
Yes.
Can I give you a real quick illustration? And I'm telling you right now, everybody thinks I'm nuts. God, we grew. We kept having more. I mean, we had hygiene products coming out of our ears, pillows out of our ears. And when you're giving out thousands of these, well, I think right now we're going through 100 a month of each. You've got stuff everywhere. And we had this little, God bless our church, Found a Life, beautiful church, love them. They gave us a little classroom. Well, we have grown it like 2 years ago. So we had stuff down, they were so gracious to us. We had stuff down the halls, in the attic, in one of their storage rooms, and everywhere. It was just a mess. So I started going before God, and I said, God, we need a new warehouse. And if I'm going to pray, I'm going to make it spectacular. Right? You have that because you... So I said, God, I want a new office warehouse, and I want it to be donated. Hey, God. I started telling people, God's going to give us a new warehouse. See, I'm the baby of the family. You ever know the babies of the family? They just think they can get everything they want. Spoiled rotten little brats, right? That's me. I milked it for all it's worth. I do it with God. I'm the baby, right? God, warehouse. We can't pay for a warehouse, but we need a warehouse. Someone's going to donate it to us. I just kept pounding and I kept knocking. For a year and a half, I stopped knocking. I just kept knocking. God, and I started telling people, God's going to give us a warehouse. They'd be like, yeah, brother. God's going to give us a warehouse. Sure he is, yeah. Woo! Couple marbles short of a full deck, right? Couple french fries short of a Happy Meal, right? And I just kept telling everybody. I told my wife. She just looked at me, she says, right, Gary. You just keep praying that. You don't believe me, do you? I don't know, but you just keep praying. Gary, no one's going to give us a free warehouse. I said, yes, they are, because I'm asking God for it. 6 months ago, I met the owner. He said, you got a warehouse you're not using. I want your warehouse. It is cool because I'm the baby of the family, so I know how to use that charm. I pour the guilt. I start telling about our kids and the abuse of our kids that we work with and what's going on with kids in the foster care. I had him crying and everything. And he says, well, we'll talk later. December this last year, we were driving on the road. We saw him on the side of the road. Rolled on my window. Well, it's electric now. I just dated myself, didn't I? Doing one of these numbers. I rolled down the window. I looked over there and I said, hey, Jimmy, when are you going to give me that warehouse? What are you doing for lunch tomorrow? I said, eating with you. So, okay, meet me here and here. Went to lunch somewhere, I can't remember where it was. Sat down, he said, so what do you want to do with the warehouse? Long story short, he says, well, this is the money I pay for rent every month. Could you guys pay half? And I got this deer in the headlight look, and I said, no, that's not God's deal with me. No, it's not quite there. And I said, well, so here's the deal. We could maybe come up with that if I prayed real hard, but I said, let's look at our budget. And he goes, what are you guys paying now? I said, nothing. He says, oh, forget it then. We want to bless you. It's good karma. We want to just help the kids. When are you guys moving in? We are now in a huge office warehouse that we staged our entire back to school event out. And you know how much rent we have paid? Nada, nunca, zippo, zilch. Guys, I want to tell you, we've got to learn the principle that Jesus tells us in His Word. I want you to drive me crazy and keep asking and keep asking and keep being a complete pest. Keep being just a complete Gary in my life. I'm like a thorn in my sword. God, I'm just, you ever have one of those grandkids or kids or nieces and nephews, they just, give me candy, give me candy, give me. No. Yeah, give me candy. No, give me candy. No, give me candy. No. All right, here, go away. That's what this parable is saying we need to do with God. Give me candy! No, we don't ask God for candy, but... Do you know what I'm saying? We can't just ask, no, don't get me wrong, you can't just go to God just asking for anything. You've got to be in the center of His will. It's got to be according to His plan, because remember, again, we've surrendered. So when you're asking Him to do stuff that's according to His plan, He's already for... Anyway, that's their message. So remember, it's not based upon a relationship, but upon God's principle of persistence. You see, our personal experience does not either validate or disqualify the Word of God. So you missed, I'm going to say it again. Our personal experience does not validate or disqualify the Word of God. So whether it happens or not, whether God heals me or not, whether God gave me a warehouse or not, God still can do it. If God decided not to heal me of something and He took me home, does God still heal? Absolutely, He still heals. Because my life does not either disqualify or validate the Word of God. It stands alone. Amen. And when we understand that He's God, I am. Yes. Did you guys, just a side burst, another freebie. Did you guys watch the last Avengers? With that new guy they created? what is his name? Voltron? One thing that just really ticked me off at the end of the movie, he says, so what do you call yourself? He said, I am. Oh, dude, I almost lost it in the theater. I almost went postal right there. I almost went U.S. missionary on you. I don't rebuke you. I wasn't going to do that. There's only one I am. There's only one. There's only one. And his word is going to be true. Get another example real quick. Oh, I got to hurry. I got 5 minutes. She told me I had till noon. Is that okay? She said start closing at 11:30. I'm going to preach. We close for half an hour. Right? All right, hallelujah. So this lady, Lainey, it's on her, I probably shouldn't say her name because this is going to be on TV. She posted about chiropractors and how she went to chiropractors, and all chiropractors are evil and wrong. And because she had a bad experience. I just went through a bad experience with my neck. I had a neck issue. Went to the doctor, couldn't correct it. I saw a chiropractor. They did this funky crack on my neck and up here, upper cervical. Wham, I was healed. If you listen to Lainey and somebody's got extreme pain because her experience was negative, they'd never get healing. I never would have received this healing if I would have listened to her. Never would have found relief if I would have listened to her. But in her mind, it's absolute truth that chiropractors can't work. Our experiences can't validate or disqualify the Word of God. It is what it is. And it may work for you, sister, and not for me. I can't judge God of why it's working in your life and not mine, but it still works. It still happens. Sometimes our lives are like this little horseshoe here. I like using this little horseshoe thing. Sometimes we as God, we want to approach God with something and we look at it and our first response is, it's too hard, I give up. I see that a lot in our foster group home kids. Their first response to anything that's a challenge is, I quit. I give up. Can't do it. But how many of us do that in the spirit? We start praying, we see the answer right away, we just give up. We stop praying, we stop being persistent. We look this way, I can't do that. It's too hard. How can I get this ring off of this horseshoe? It can't be done. God's the God of the impossible, right? Can we take this ring off of here? And we try it. Oh, I tried it once. I'm done. Forget it. I tried it once. How many people do you know you've talked to said they tried God once, it didn't work? Yes. You tried God. What do you mean you tried God? That's like trying on a pair of underwear and decide you don't like it, so you're never going to buy underwear again. I tried on a pair of shoes, it was uncomfortable. I'm just giving up shoes the rest of my life. I brushed my teeth and I was flossing and I got a little blood. I ain't never brushing again, ever again. I tried it once. No, it's not for me. But you don't try God. But can we ever give up? Because if we just continue to be persistent, and we say, God, I'm going to look at something that may look like that it's, and of course it's going to take me how longer to do the normal, huh? It's too persistent, I can't do it. But everything can be done.
Yes.
Because God says it can be done. That's a pretty simple little trick, but you guys get the illustration. We've got to stop looking at life and say, I give up. I'm going to stop doing this. And I tried it once. So God didn't heal my marriage. God didn't bring my son back to God. And I prayed a couple of times. I prayed for a month. It didn't happen, so I'm done. Well, I think you need to keep being persistent and keep knocking and keep asking God. My favorite scripture, Ephesians 3:20, says God is able to do immeasurably more. Ephesians 3:20. God is able to do immeasurably more than all we can think or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. You know what that scripture tells me? That when my faith, my talent, my ability, my hope ends, that's where God begins. When my faith is weary and lacking, that's when God steps in. I've only been able to, God help me pray for somebody that was dying. There was a little girl. 3 weeks before, I prayed for another little girl who was in our youth group. His cousin fell into a pool and drowned, died. I was up all night interceding, God, raise her from the dead. Raise her from the dead. Don't let this baby die from drowning. Don't do that. We stayed up all night interceding, just crying out to God. Everything we knew to do, crying out to God. Nothing happened. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my best friend. My daughter is in the hospital. She's dying. You've got to come pray. You know, my first response was, no way! I did that last night. I don't have the faith to do what I can. She says, I don't care what your faith is, Gary. Get down here and pray for my daughter. Oh, yes, ma'am. So I say to my wife, too, yes, dear. So I walked into this hospital completely defeated. Just, it's never going to happen. And I walked in the room, and I laid my hand and I prayed the most generic, pitiful, pathetic prayer of this little girl I've ever prayed. I'm telling you, I'm just being transparent. Is that okay? I prayed the most pathetic prayer ever that I've ever prayed. There was zero faith, but I was obedient. You see the principle I'm trying to teach you here?
Yes.
I laid my hands on her, I prayed, I walked out, I went home. I was angry with God. Well, not angry. God and I have a weird relationship. You know, so I never get really angry with God. I'm frustrated. Things don't work out the way I think they should. That makes sense? So I went home. Got a call when I got home. You wouldn't believe what just happened. All of her vital signs, from the minute you walked out of the room, completely turned around. They're just letting her go tomorrow morning from the hospital. They want to run a few more tests, but they can't find anything now. They said she's perfectly healthy, and we're sending her home because all of her vital signs and everything in her is completely normal. I want to tell you, God is God. Regardless of what we think, what we feel, what our faith level is, it's just, let's let God be God and be obedient.
Hallelujah.
If we're going to change our world, if we're going to change the foster care system, we have got to begin to say, God, you're bigger than I am.
Yes.
I have more stories, but I'm running out of time. Can I just give you one more story real quick? I'll be out there, I promise. I'll get you guys lunch. My truck broke down. After we've been doing ministry, you know I'm a missionary, so we don't ever have any money. It's by faith. You just live by faith, hallelujah. My truck broke down. And I was like, at first I was like, oh man. And I was like, no. Doggone it, God called me to the ministry. He said, do you trust me? God's going to provide. So I called the mechanic. He came out and looked at my truck and he says, I got some bad news for you, Gary. And I said, what's that? He says, truck's dead. Forget it. It's gone, man. Gone, dead. You're never going to drive this thing again. I said, oh. I said, is there any good news? He said, yeah, I'll buy it from your parts. I'll give you a pretty good deal because I like you. Okay, I'll do it. I can't be. He says, it's not worth fixing. So I walked to my wife and I said, honey, guess what? I got some great news for you. And I got some bad news for you. She goes, well, what do you want first? She goes, just give me the bad news first. And I said, truck's dead. Mechanic said he can't fix it. So what's the good news? God's going to give you a brand new truck. And I went to prayer and I said, God, you said, do I trust you? And I don't believe you give junk. I believe you give the best that there is. So God, if you say no, that's cool. But I'm asking you for a brand new, ready for this? I want a brand new 4-door Toyota Tacoma with a long bed. That's what I want. And I started going around telling all my friends and everybody, God's going to give me a new truck. God's going to give me a new truck. You know what all my good Christian friends said? You're crazy. Or give me ads for used stuff. Here's a used truck on sale. It's a Dodge. No. I don't want a Dodge. I want to keep driving it for a couple of years. Oh, I'm sorry. I want a Toyota Tacoma, brand new, off the lot. Well, Gary, just take this. No, I don't want to use one. That's not what I'm praying and I'm asking God to do. And God says He's going to be before me, and God doesn't give junk. He's a God of excellence. If God can give Budweiser brand new trucks to deliver beer, He can give me a brand new truck to deliver goods to foster kids. Right? Yes. And I held on to it no matter what anybody said in my life. There's going to be naysayers in your life, folks, and you just got to keep pressing on. Long story short, I walked in. God says, I want you to go. This was cool. God said, go down to the dealership. I knew the finance manager. He says, go to the dealership and have him look around the lot and pick out your truck. I said, yes. Went down to the lot. Said, walk around the truck. He said, why? I said, God's going to give me a truck. He's like, okay, sure. I looked at it and said, I want that truck right there. Don't sell it. I went back in 30 days. Okay? So in his office, he starts filling the papers. You know those car dealerships are. Now your payments are going to be. I said, no, you're not hearing me. Not going to be payments. God's giving me a truck. I went back in 30 days to pick it up. Okay? Now there's a lot more to the story that I don't have time to share with you. 28 days later, I walked in. I threw a check down on his desk. And I said, God, just give me the truck. Give me my keys to my truck. And I drove off a lot in a brand new Tacoma, Toyota, 4-door, long bed. Guys, I want to tell you, is it because I've done anything special? No, it's because God is God, and He's going to do according to His Word. And if He promises something in your life, you've got to go after it and quit letting the dreams in your life die. I don't care how untalented you are or what your life is relationally wise. You're just going to keep knocking and keep believing in His sovereign nature that He is God and watch God do miracles. Because He will.
Yes, amen.
Genesis 22 verse 5, and I close with this. Abraham's getting ready to go up and sacrifice his son. You guys know the story, right? He had the fire and the wood and the knife. And he walked up. I'm not going to be offensive. I'm just going to read the scripture as it says. Okay? Is that okay? I'm not trying to be offensive here, so nobody get offended. It's in the Bible. Abraham drops all this stuff and he gets his things and he looks back at his people and nobody's coming with him. He looks back and he says, are you going to stay with the asses, or are you going to go yonder to worship with me? It's a very good question. We have people in our lives that are like those animals, that we continue to hang around and we never go anywhere, and we lag behind and we miss the miracle of the healing, we miss the miracle of the provision, we miss the miracle of God interceding because we're so busy staying with the jackasses in our life. Can I say that in church? And we stay around people that are naysayers. You're never going to have this. You can't have a new truck. You're never going to have that. Your marriage is doomed. This is happening and this is happening. You're never going to have money. You got to stop believing that dream. That dream is silly. It's crazy. You're never going to have it. And we stay around with the people in our lives that are back here when we've got to drop all of our stuff and take the fire, the wood, and the knife and to walk yonder to God and say, God, I'm going to walk into your provision and your miracles and see the things that you said can happen. Your abundance, your provision, your intercession. I want to go up higher because I want to see you, God. I want to see you. I think it's time, church, that we keep hanging around the things in our life that don't lead to Christ and His intervention, because He cares about your life. He sees you in your home, your marriage, your job, wherever you're at, the despair you might be in, the transition you might be in. It doesn't matter. God knows exactly where you are. And we need to begin to start knocking with persistence, surrendering with our swords held high, and say, God, I'm going to press in because you're a God of abundance, and I'm tired of hanging around with the despair and the junk and the naysayers in my life and the hurt and the despair and woe is me, and I'm going to go yonder to worship. I'm going to go up higher, and I'm going to find you.
Praise God.
If you guys want to come, last thing I want to say is I want to encourage you to this. Guy taught me this a couple years ago. He said, Gary, when you pray two things, and I've prayed it every day of my life, and I just want to give it to you because it's transformed my life and my prayer. The first thing is, he says, Gary, every day I pray, God, I pray for divine connections and divine appointments. God, I pray for divine connections and divine appointments. That has led to me walking into the head of DCS in Oregon and changing their whole policies and procedures. Meeting with the governor of Texas and Arizona and Mississippi and going in there and transforming the presence of foster care, the whole culture of foster care in those states. Walking into a bank in Mississippi, meeting with the CEO, saying, I want you to fund our programs. And he says, we're interested, let's talk. And we're in communications right now to possibly give $100,000 to open up transitional homes and group homes in Mississippi. Why? Because I believe in divine connections and divine appointments. And I pray it every day.
Thank you, Lord.
Second thing is, God told me to pray, and this guy told me to pray. Gary, pray the Jabez prayer every day in your life. God bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. That your hand be upon me. Keep me far from evil, and I may not cause pain. Church, we got to start asking God to bless His plans in our life. Bless me indeed, God. Bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. My wife keeps saying, Gary, quit praying that prayer. We're too big. We can't keep up. But I keep praying that God bless us indeed and enlarge our territory.
Praise you, Jesus.
See, church, God loves you.
Praise you, Jesus.
And He has got a plan for your life. I don't care what's happened. I don't care what circumstances say. You can't validate God's word or say God doesn't care because of things that have happened in your life.
Thank you, Lord.
He wants to touch you. He wants to cleanse you. And I just want to be here today and say, man, if God can use me, He can use you to bless you. Hallelujah. Turn back over to you. Thank you guys. God bless you. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the seeds.